Today on the Mayor King channel and Aguna Asifa in Brooklyn discussing the plight of Agunot. All my thoughts and more coming up right now. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Mayor King channel, where we educate you in authentic Jewish divorce law and expose the fiction, lies, and deception promulgated by the unlearned, the corrupted rabbis, feminist organizations, and of course by some women themselves. Recently, there was an asifa held in Brooklyn to discuss the Aguna crisis and to offer words of encouragement for the victims of get refusal. I find it very interesting that the organizers of this event used the term asifa. We see in Parshas Bahaloscha, Perek 11, Pasuk 4, that the Torah refers to the complainers as Veho Asafsuf, also known as the rabble-rousers. These were the Erev Rav, the ancient Egyptians who supposedly wanted to convert and join our nation upon exiting Egypt. Then immediately after the Pasuk, the Torah states in Pasuk 16 that Hashem instructed Moshe, Esfali Shivim Ish, gather for me 70 elders. Over there, the Torah uses the word Esfa, yet a few psukim earlier it uses Veho Asafsuf. Both words are derived from the same root of Asaf, which means to gather. But what is the significance of the extended version of Veho Asafsuf? The Torah continues to describe that the complaints of the Erev Rav managed to arouse the cries of the Bnei Yisrael. The commentaries explain that the Erev Rav, the lowest element of the people, were the first to be overcome by desire for meat, so they began to grumble about their inability to satisfy their cravings. But why were they complaining for lacking meat? They had the man, which was a unique spiritual food that can taste like anything you imagine, including steak. They also had plenty of cattle to satisfy their meat cravings. So what is going on here? Our sages state that their desire for meat was a mere pretext for the real desire to indulge in sinful relationships that were previously allowed before receiving the Torah, but afterwards were forbidden, such as marrying close relatives. The Erev Rav created a commotion by reminding the Bnei Yisrael of the former unrestricted life. This is very similar, in my opinion, to this asifa organized by Aguna rabble-rousers, the modern-day Erev Rav. These people, which include some rogue rabbis, are not happy with our Torah, our traditions, our system of laws, and therefore gather together to strategize how to further antagonize the traditional Torah-abiding public and how to harass men in violating their halachic rights vis-a-vis in matter of divorce. In the process, they label men as misogynists. Make no mistake, the Erev Rav amongst us are a group of people, both men and women, who have adopted the anti-Torah ideology known as feminism, which at its core cannot agree with many things written in the Torah, because in their view it appears misogynist, heaven forbid. But of course, Hashem, the creator of the world, knows what's best for us. So this Jewish feminist movement, which includes organizations like Ora and others in Israel, as well as individual activists such as Kayla Haber Goldstein, a newcomer on the block, invented as their mantra the word Aguna amongst other slogans so that they can stealthily convince the public to sympathize and organize actions to ridicule men, marriages, and the Torah. They hijacked a term that is not applicable to most women today who do not have a get, but give them this title to kosherize their anti-Torah tactics and make them appear legitimate. In fact, I will link below a podcast interviewing Kayla Haber Goldstein, a self-proclaimed feminist. Pay attention to her questions and statements, and you will see a woman who is confused about the Torah's view of women. Therefore, there should be no doubt that feminism and its ideology is what fuels these people and these events. Not the truth and not Torah values. To better understand why most of these supposed agunas are not agunas, you will have to watch my previous video titled The Weaponization of Aguna, video 34, where I bring proof from two Gemaras, Kesubas 109a and Gittin 49b, which I will link in a description box below, that the modern day aguna term is false. From these Gemaras that I quote in that video, it's apparent that a woman who provokes her husband in any manner, and especially as we see today with women using secular courts against halacha to strip away man's halachic rights in divorce, then it becomes obvious that these women have been falsely labeled as agunas. An analogy of this would be if you would take an unkosher animal and show everyone that you are using a special shechita knife to slaughter it in accordance with halacha. Does this shechita action kosher the animal? Of course not. You need both kosher animal species and proper shechita. The use of a special shechita knife was just smoke and mirrors to make it appear kosher. Therefore, from the appearance of this asifa, its mission goals, and its speakers, the appropriate title should really be Asafsuf, a gathering of the Erev Rav. I also have credible evidence that Kayla Haber-Goldstein and other organizers of this event had spoken to dozens of rabbis to attend this event, but were all turned down by the majority of them. So you have to wonder, why so many rabbis refuse to attend and speak at this event? The answer is that these rabbis know very well the true motives behind this movement and its disingenuous practices and want no part of it. Feminism and its message is what drove those rabbis away from attending. Whether Jewish or not, feminism is an ideology which is not about equality of both genders, but about domination of women over men, and many rabbis want nothing to do with this Erev Rav style organizations. A true asifa would constitute a genuine attempt to represent both sides of the aisle, the men, the women, and children, in determining what are the real problems affecting Jewish divorce today and what solutions can be implemented. Since this asifa organizers are not interested in addressing the real issues at hand, I will endeavor to explain and highlight for you what are the real problems plaguing Jewish divorce in 2023. So let's begin with number one. As I stated previously, most women today are not agunas, and as such are not deserving of sympathy simply because many have violated serious halachas by litigating, shaming, and ostracizing their husbands. An aguna, as defined by our Talmud, represents a woman whose husband is lost at sea and has no recourse to remarry. This woman wants her husband back. This woman has not provoked her husband in any manner and bears no responsibility whatsoever to her abandoned state. There are very few women today that meet this criteria, and therefore, to label all women without a get as agunas is like labeling all married women as being abused. It's simply not true. It's disingenuous and agenda-driven. Once again, I refer you to my previous video titled The Weaponization of Agunas to better understand the meaning of aguna. I'm not stating my opinion, but basing it on two Gemaras that illustrate this fact. Number two, another slogan of the Erev Rav is that the get refusal is a form of domestic abuse. This is another lie. There is no authentic halachic authority that lived prior to the Chazon Ish that ever published in his sefer such a statement. In fact, such a statement is a direct affront to the two Gemaras which I have quoted before. This is yet another feminist-driven tool to create false narrative about men in order to incite hateful comments towards men who haven't given a get on demand, and even in cases where a man is not obligated to give a get per halacha. Number three, the Erev Rav amongst us do not tolerate the halacha of poter legarish, as this goes against the grain of get on demand, which is also an anti-Torah concept. The Gemara explicitly separates getting into three categories. A. Koifin legarish. These are cases where you can coerce a get, but they're not practiced today. It's very rare. B. Chayev legarish aval ein koifin. Person who has to divorce but is not allowed to be coerced. And C. Potter legarish, which constitutes the majority of cases today that you're not allowed to force and the man does not have to give a get. This is the reason why the rogue feminist rabbis adopted the Rambam's opinion of coercion, even though it is common knowledge amongst the learned folk that we don't follow the Rambam's opinion to coerce a get, as the Rambam is in the minority. Therefore, anyone following a minority opinion is considered a heretic. Unfortunately, the Erev Rav used these heretical rabbis to advance their agenda. And number 4, the men are not being treated as equal partners in a divorce. Women have to understand that when they decide that the marriage is over, this does not mean that the husband is no longer a father. You do not own your children. Children are a product of a three-way relationship between you, your husband, and Hashem that provides the neshama. When a woman steals custody from a man, it not only represents theft from her husband, theft from Hashem, as Hashem did not consent to breaking this partnership, but the worst kind of abuse, also known as child abuse, because every child deserves to have both a father and a mother in their life. Did any of you who watched the Asifa hear from any speaker at that event about solving parental alienation? Did anyone in the Asifa bring up halachic violations committed by the women and what changes are needed? Of course not. This event not only did not acknowledge the rights of men, but disregarded the rights of children in divorce. Take a look now at the following video, a message from a protester outside the Asifa.
Got it? We're here on behalf of children. Children come first. Rabbi Victor Miller held that every aguna is fake. There's no such thing as an aguna. There are no real agunas today. Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. Tonight we stand on behalf of children. Children come first. We come here in peace and to daven and to say Tehillim and blow shofar. It's the month of Elul. We ask that the mothers please stop alienating the children from their fathers. Kids come first. Parental alienation equals child abuse. We're only here on one reason, for kids. My home is open to children all the time, and thank God hundreds of them come. But it's really, really sad that so many children have to come and not see their fathers for 10, 20 years. I even have grandparents and great-grandparents that I haven't seen. Holocaust survivors. We stand that don't see their great-grandchildren and die. This has to stop. It's a sad epidemic, and these rabbis that are backing and pushing all this money, and they're just bringing together more and more money for lawyers and courts. And that's what they do. They take the lawyers against the fathers and more money. And the rich men are all giving money towards this because these are all just single women. Very, very sad.
What lawyers do.
Lawyers are terrible. Family court lawyers should all be shot and hung. Every last one of them.
He just threatened me.
I'm right now, absolutely, they steal money from their clients. They force the cases to go longer and longer. On one hand, maybe there are family court lawyers that are actually trying to do the right thing. On one hand, I've seen hundreds of them. 99.9 are just terrible. And the court system allows it. This is wrong. We stand here in peace. We blow shofar and we say children come first, and the Jewish religion, kids always come first. Take a look. When you blow the shofar, everybody's quiet. You see? Because we need to repent. We need our way back to Hashem, and we need to find a way to actually let Mashiach Tzidkenu come here. Come here, even here. This is Brooklyn. Most is a hub for Jews. We have to make sure to do tshuva. Children come first. 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 Children come.
Parental alienation should have been the topic of the night. Yes, the children who are helpless in defending their rights are being abused by mothers who alienate their children from their father. Has anyone ever seen Aura or other feminist Aguna organizations ever cover this topic? Never. Because they don't care about children or men. It's all about me, me, and me. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have an Aguna crisis. We have a divorce crisis. In fact, pretty soon, we will have a marriage crisis where less and less young men will pursue marriage because of high-risk divorce. Unless genuine people are willing to take concrete steps to fix the problems on both sides of the aisle, the get refusal issue won't be solved. Get refusal is just as much a woman's issue as it is a man's. The Gemara's quoted above, and in my previous video, clearly allows a man to withhold a get when provoked by his wife. She, in many cases, is the symptom of get refusal. Therefore, it is my fervent belief that if women would stop their aggressive divorce tactics and mediate a fair divorce, you will have solved many get refusal cases. In the past 18 years, I have spoken to many divorced men who have told me that had their wives not stolen the kids, assets, etc., and approached a divorce in a mediation forum, an amicable approach, then get refusal would not be a factor. The Aguna movement has to stop looking at the signs, but instead look into the symptoms. And with that I mean, what is causing this man to withhold a get? Is it possible that her fake order of protection, her public social media campaign against him, has upset him? Taking a one-sided approach, as seen in this Asifa, insinuating to the public that get refusal is because of the man's actions only, will not solve the problem but will further aggravate the problem, as men have also formed groups and are now being educated about their halachic rights and will stand up to their God-given rights of fatherhood and to their halachic rights in matters of divorce. This channel is a good example of this and was created for this explicit reason, to make men aware of their halachic rights. Shlomo HaMelech stated, Chochmas Noshim Bonsa Beisa. This means a wise woman knows how to build, but an evil one is bent on destroying. By perpetuating the false narratives that men are abusive for withholding a get and instituting a one-sided fixes to get refusal with things like the RCA prenup, which serves to protect women only and penalize the men only, won't solve the problem. People are wising up. The word is out about these nefarious practices. This approach is destructive and counterproductive. I want you all to know that I fully believe and support that a woman should receive a get when her marriage is over. However, this get cannot and should not be given till both parties are fully compliant with halacha, have made restitution to the party that was wronged, and completed and finalized everything in accordance with halacha and fairness. This means that if a woman from the start goes to civil court to litigate her divorce, which is keneged the Torah, she has not only not fulfilled her Torah obligations in matters of divorce, but has rebelled against the Torah and is not entitled to a get till everything is corrected. This is not my opinion, but the opinion of the two Gemaras that I quoted before. I'm also a big believer in a mediated divorce because too many bezins today are not operating according to halacha. I personally am prepared to help any couple who's just beginning the process and has not tainted it by opening a civil court of bezdin file to help bring the matter to a fair resolution and a get. I would like to conclude with a message to Kayla Haber Goldstein, the organizer of the supposed Asifa. I am critical of your event by calling it Asafsuf instead of Asifa. By saying this, I essentially label this event a gathering of rabble-rousers and Erev Rav instead of a noble event. Do you know why? The answer is because an event that supports lies and imposters inherently means that its message, its mission, is also based on lies. You see, Caleb, you and others who preceded you have made Lana Kin a sort of ambassador of Agunot. Although she portrays herself as an Aguna, she's an imposter. There is a get that was written voluntarily by me in 2008, which she refuses to pick up with all sorts of excuses. That is not an Aguna, but an imposter. I will link below a letter from the Bezin with explicit instructions that must be fulfilled in order for that get to be kosher. Lana has refused to fulfill those conditions, which doesn't cost her any money because she refuses to relinquish her title as the queen of all Agunas. I'm going to display the letter for all of you right now. I will also link below this Seruv. This Seruv issued against Lana with my first bezin of Moshe Gabiov to illustrate to you all that this is no innocent woman. Anyone can make false statements as she has. In a courtroom, the litigant's statements alone will not suffice to convince a jury of his or her innocence. You must show proof to back up your words. Lana Kin has repeatedly made false statements about me, her status, her get, and the bezin involved in this case. She has not provided proof to her words, but just hot air. Rabbi Gestetner has very eloquently and clearly clearly stated his instructions. He explicitly said not to contact him until after these parameters are met. She has repeatedly harassed him and wasted his time on multiple occasions, and therefore he won't pick up the phone for her or for anyone else until she fulfills those terms. This letter provides explicit instructions that must be done to deliver a kosher get. Again, you could see that letter below. It does not mention any demand for monies, as Lana has stated on numerous occasions. In fact, to illustrate Lana's recalcitrance, she repeatedly has attacked Rabbi Gestetner, myself, and my family after receiving that letter in 2018. That letter explicitly asked her to remove all sorts of coercive and aggressive actions, and not only has she not complied, but has repeatedly added more attacks afterwards. You call this woman an Aguna? Rabbi Gestetner, myself, and even Lana claim to keep the Torah. Therefore, only a kosher and a non-coerced get will be delivered to her. Her adamant refusal to comply has only herself to blame, since it was Lana herself, with her emissaries, who took those initial steps against halacha to punish me with all sorts of action despite my compliance with halacha. Anyone observing her mannerisms on video can see a woman who appears quite happy with her Aguna ambassador status. She appears jolly, merry, and enjoys all the accolades thrown her way by you and others. This only fuels her drive to not pick up the get, so that she can continue receiving such honors. By elevating an impostor such as Lana and parading her as some kind of glorified Aguna, you have not only hurt the real Agunas who have no get waiting for them, but have also casted a doubt into your entire mission statements, because once one part of your mission or statements is proven false, then your whole house of cards will begin to fall. You and others have not done your research, and as such, I will be presenting soon a fact check video to the public, full of her statements, contrasted with documents and video exhibits that paint a different picture of who she is. The letter showing that a get is waiting for her to pick up since 2008, along with the seruv issued against her, represents just a minuscule of evidence that I will Emir Hashem present to the public about this imposter Aguna, and at the same time will show proof how Ora, Kayla, and all other social media attention-seeking feminists have misled the public and hurt the real Agunas. Lana Kim will soon be revealed to be the Jewish version of Amber Heard. Remember this woman who wanted her abuse to be heard? But she was eventually heard to be a liar and a manipulator of facts. Once the facts are out, you and the other Aguna Erev Rav will be discredited. Just like dozens of Rabbanim wanted nothing to do with your event, others will also abandon your call, for you will lose credibility by promoting imposters. I started this video with the story of the Erev Rav, who were a group of people complaining for lack of meat, but in reality all was just a pretext for wanting to create discord among the Bnei Yisrael. I recommend that you or on others fact check everything before presenting it to the public to preserve the integrity of your organizations or missions. Not every woman out there is credible, no matter how real it sounds. You must pick real agunas to represent your message. Again, remember the story of Amber Heard. The woman who feigned abuse and her eventual downfall. My message before the new year to all of you who have not yet been brainwashed into feminist ideology is to think carefully whom you support financially and personally, lest you be ensnared into anti-Torah heretical views that may lead you into believing you are doing chesed when in reality you will be supporting hate, lashon hara, and other sins. May Hashem have mercy on the real agunas and expose the imposters and rabble-rousers amongst us. Thank you for watching, and see you all in the next video.